Welcome to Exponentially Elevate Your Leadership Impact, the podcast for women educators who are ready to lead boldly, live authentically, and multiply their influence. I'm Dr. Stephanie Duguid, a 30-year educator, speaker, mentor, educational leadership expert, and best-selling author. My passion for leadership started early, influenced deeply by the strength, grace, and unwavering work ethic of my mother, a 40-year high school teacher. She showed me what it means to lead by example with purpose, resilience, and heart. And that legacy fuels everything I do. I've spent my career empowering women in education and leadership, and I created this space for individuals just like you, purpose driven, passionate, and ready for more. Each month, we welcome incredible guests to explore mindset shifts, leadership strategies, and transformational stories, all grounded in my signature leadership dance framework to help you lead with clarity, confidence, and unstoppable impact. Let's get started and exponentially elevate your leadership journey by empowering women educators to serve with goodness, lead with greatness, and educate with impact. And today I am so excited to have Dr. Kris Tolman with us. She is a trained life coach and business owner of Life by Design Coaching and Training. Most recently, she was the interim associate director for the National Institute for Staff and Organizational Development, or NISOD, where she led programming that supported student success, faculty development, and inclusive educational practices, including organizing and directing the NISOD conference. Before joining NISOD, Kris held roles in faculty development and served as a professor at Austin Community College. Kris completed her PhD in adult, professional, and continuing education at Texas State University, where her research focused on barriers to diversity, equity, and inclusion training, the relationship between adult development and adult learning, and fostering mindset shifts through developmental programs. Through her work, Kris continues to champion empowering educational environments that support all learners. As a coach, she guides people in learning to listen to their inner voice and supports them in creating the life they want to live. Welcome, Dr. Tolman, or as I know you, Kris. How are you today?
Thanks, Stephanie. I'm doing so well, and thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
Oh, absolutely. So that gave us a really broad overview of everything that you've done. And we've known each other in the educational space for a couple years. So just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe something that's not in the bio that you would like to share with the audience before we get into some of our questions.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that question. As I've been preparing for and reflecting on our time together today, I really reflected on my upbringing, which really had a significant impact on my leadership journey. And so that really begins with the religion in which I was raised and was active for about 45 years of my life. And a significant part of that religious practice was to have jobs within the church that we were asked to fulfill. And oftentimes they would be in positions of leadership over organizations. My first opportunity being when I was a teenager, and I was asked to be the president of my small class of other young women who are my same age. And I was charged with um, the care for those young women and understanding their emotional needs, their spiritual needs, and also making sure that physically they had things that they needed. And so my leadership journey is founded in those principles of really caring about people.
Well, and I think that is such a powerful statement to share because most people assume that your leadership journeys or experiences have to start once you have a job or once you are in a, career of some sort. But just like you, many experience leadership opportunities much younger, whether it's in the church or in a community organization or wherever else it might be. So I love that you shared that that was your first opportunity. You might have other women going, "Oh yeah, I really did do leadership activities and opportunities when I was much younger."
Yes.
So as you've evolved from, what you did in your church through your religion and where you are now, what really sparked your passion for leadership? Because you just finished your doctorate. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank
And
you.
so, what really sparked your passion for leadership and how has it evolved?
Uh, so for me, there were a couple of things that happened, but one was being able to have the vision, like create a vision, and then that people were excited to support the vision and follow that. So one of the earliest examples I can think of is again it refers back to working in the church and volunteering in the church, and I was asked to plan a camp for young women who were ages 12 to 18, 100 of them, plus
Wow.
train 20 or more volunteers who were going to show up and run this camp. So, again, it was all volunteer work. And so I developed the theme of the camp. I developed what the activities were going to be. I developed the schedule. I coordinated with the camp. And so the opportunity to develop that theme, as well as the programming that would help the young women to connect with the values that we were hoping to inspire them with, that was something that I feel has inspired the rest of my leadership journey and my interest in
Mhm.
leadership and what a good leader can look like through those, starting from those experiences.
Well, and it seems like that initial experience, it really took all aspects of leadership. A lot of times people walk in and they have to organize a meeting, but then they delegate the rest. But it seemed like you were, feet to the fire. You are in charge of everything. Figure it out. Now, how are we going to move forward? So that is very impressive, and congratulations on being able to navigate all of that, because that's what a way to start. And so I can absolutely see in the journey that you and I have had, how you've had to step into these different positions and opportunities. There were some individuals that transitioned to another journey along the way, and you just had to kind of step in and pick up some other responsibilities. And what a great job you did. And now I can see why you had the wherefore, how to do all those things. And so you may have talked about this, but was there one pivotal moment that pushed you to step into your leadership journey more boldly? Was it your experience younger, or was there something as you transitioned to your work at ACC or NISOD or somewhere in between that was really that pivotal step?
Uh, There are a couple of points that, for me, that I think about. The first was um, transitioning into leadership positions in the scouting program, so another
Mhm.
volunteer organization. One of the things in my religion and the way that things happened with these jobs that we'd be given is that there wasn't a lot of training provided. So they
Mhm.
would say, "Can you do this job?" And so when you said yes, you would sometimes get a binder that would have some helpful material, but mostly it was cool, go figure it out.
Mhm. Well, regular world is like that too.
Yes. And so I really feel like that equipped me for, in the work world and having leadership that positions that you take on. And so the thing though that stands out to me that helped me really step up into later leadership opportunities was one, getting into the scouting program where more leadership opportunities were available. But also, I met someone within scouting who was a mentor for me, that cared about me, that cared about my development, that could see my potential that maybe I couldn't see for myself even, and and had this vested interest in helping me to grow into an even better leader and into leadership positions that I hadn't imagined for myself. And so I think about how impactful that was and how I think everyone could use someone like that in their lives and in their journey.
And I love that you shared that you were in a program and somebody invested in you.
Hmm.
That is so important, and that they saw potential in you that maybe you didn't see. And
Hmm.
so as you go through all of your journeys, and again, it doesn't have to be educational leadership, it can be scouting leadership or church leadership or whatever it might be. It's all the same, is that we're all people,
Hmm.
and we all have opportunities and potential, but sometimes like you, we don't all always see it. And so I encourage anyone listening, if you see somebody that has potential, let them know.
Yes,
Sometimes they don't realize that they have that potential.
yes,
And so, that kind of goes to some of the mentorship pieces. So would you say that that individual was a mentor? And again, mentors don't have to be an official arrangement or an agreement. It can just be somebody that influences you in a positive way. So would this person be your first mentor? Did they see themselves as that? Did you all have that type of relationship?
yes, absolutely. I felt like he really took the time to help me understand. Um, like he really equipped me with the tools I needed to be successful, and that mattered to him.
Mm-hmm.
And also later, several years later, working closely together, he was put into a position where he was asked to be the course director for one of the leadership training courses that we ran through the scouting program. And he asked me to be his number two in command of that program, where I would be the one that was the face of his vision. I was the one that was making his vision a reality while the course was running. And I felt very humbled by that
Mm-hmm.
request, that he would place that trust in me.
I love that. And so it is somebody investing their time in supporting you and empowering you to grow as
Yes,
well.
yes.
So, how would you personally define leadership impact? So, I think that this individual had an impact on you, but how would you define leadership impact?
So this goes back to the best example I can use to help and to illustrate how I define it is the NISOC conference.
Mm-hmm.
So this I would say was another pivotal moment for me stepping into leadership, and it was a direct result of that interaction and mentorship with that friend of mine that I had the courage to then step up and offer to lead the conference and NISOT itself when our previous leadership departed. And so, leading that conference, what I wanted is one, I wanted the larger education community, community college employees, staff, faculty. I wanted the people who would be attending the conference to know that we were there to support them, that
Mm-hmm.
this conference was about them. It was for them. And we wanted to do everything we could to have this be a very positive, welcoming, and warm experience for them while they were at our conference. And not only that, but we had the opportunity to recognize these Excellence Award recipients uh, who have spent a lifetime really supporting students and really accomplishing some amazing things. And we had the honor
Mm-hmm.
of recognizing them there. And so, one aspect of impact, and the way I define it, is how your customers or stakeholders, how the people that interact with your organization, how they feel and what their experience is, and knowing that they're cared for and supported.
Mm-hmm.
The other aspect of impact that I think about is your team that's working with you to accomplish your goal. And
Mm-hmm.
so, as I thought about this huge thing that I had just decided to
It was
undertake,
huge. It was huge.
it's something that I'd never done before in
Mm-hmm.
quite this way. And I realized that I really wanted my team to be fully invested in it too. I wanted it to be not just my vision, but our vision. And and so, to that end, there were certain parts of it that I delegated to my team and encouraged them to develop their own vision about what their aspect of the conference was going to look like. So, for example, one member of the team, her assignment was to maybe re-envision what the awards dinner was going to look like. And it didn't have to be a huge overhaul, but rather in what ways did she see that we could make this a special experience for award recipients and then support her in what her vision was?
Hmm.
And so what I saw from that was a development of trust between all of us and a true feeling of success for all of us together. It was our shared success when the conference was over.
Mm.
And so when I think about impact, it's people. It goes back to people and
Yes.
and what their experience is and how they're doing.
You have just wrapped up kind of the ideal leadership situation in that explanation. Because if you think about it, you were talking about you were the one in charge of this, but you were really concerned for those that were experiencing it, but you were also really concerned for those that were supporting putting it on, and they all had to have ownership. So one of the things that I always talk about, especially with teamwork, and I'll talk about teamwork first before I talk about anything else, is that a lot of people think teamwork is I'm telling you what to do and you all do what I say, and that's the team. And that's not what it is at all. So, teamwork is really building those relationships. And you mentioned the word trust, and that is such a powerful word because it takes a while to build that trust, but it takes one event to break that trust.
Mhm.
And so I love that, they shared their vision and you gave them permission to do that. That is something that a lot of leaders won't do is they won't relinquish control, if you will.
Mhm.
But a selfless leader, one that is there to serve others, will relinquish and say, "Hey, this is all of us. We are a team and I am trusting you to make some great decisions. Let's share them together, let's share them collectively, and then I'm giving you this opportunity." And that is huge in order to share that. So that feeling of success, as you mentioned, there was support in their vision, feeling success, they were invested in it. And when somebody is invested and they take that ownership, they're going to move mountains because you've
Yes.
trusted them to do so.
Yes.
But then you also touched on letting those that attend the conference know that we see you, we hear you. Because I just know from the NISOT experience that you all ask for feedback all the time. And you listen to that feedback and you read the feedback and you evaluate the feedback. And if it's realistic and something that can be done, then absolutely you're going to do it. I mean, you can't take something out of left field and, take a pivot, but there were some really great opportunities that you all would encompass and really, support those that were supporting you.
Yeah.
So, and I loved, there's been a shift in NISOD, and those that are listening probably know about the shift, but I also loved that you all had listening sessions, knowing that there was going to be a shift. So you all wanted to hear and you took in all the information and you asked for clarification and you asked more questions. And so kudos to you for, your experiences very young being thrown into the fire and how you have utilized that and really become a selfless leader in all that you do. So without sounding condescending, I'm very proud of you for that.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. So, what is one piece of advice you wish you had earlier in your leadership journey? Do you have a piece of advice that maybe?
Yes.
Yes, definitely.
Uh, be yourself. Don't be afraid to be yourself.
Mhm.
Um, one of the things that, as I was reflecting on this particular question that came to mind was, I remember, and it goes back to an experience within church, probably similar to the time where I started planning that girls' camp I mentioned before. And there was a woman that was in a position of leadership, and she mentioned how when she goes to these meetings with men in the church who are in positions of power and leadership, that she had to dress the part to be heard and to be seen. And so she would change the way that she presented to be heard and seen. And I get that in society there are things that It's a reality. It's a reality of society that we live in a little bit, that sometimes that sort of thing has to happen. But I think that the thing that I've learned is that it's so much easier to be effective when we can just live authentically and be ourselves.
Mm,
And so rather than being concerned about what other people are thinking and whether we're dressing or behaving the way they think we should, that we are behaving the way we think we should, that we are dressing the way we think we should, that we're comfortable who we are.
and again, that is such a great statement. I had somebody on, it was actually my very, very first show that I had 3 years ago. And she is the chancellor at one of the Arkansas schools. And she said the best advice that she also received was to wear your own shoes. So she said, if I put on your shoes, they're not going to be comfortable. They're going to rub me the wrong way. It's going to cause blisters. And so always to wear your own shoes. You want to emulate somebody else or you want to copy what somebody else is doing, but that's what works for them.
Yeah.
So what works for you and being your authentic self? And that is, again, one of the big things that when I work with individuals is to be your authentic self. So really know, why are you doing this? Is it because somebody else wants you to do it? Or is it because you have a passion for doing it? Because if you don't have that passion, you're not going to continue on down this journey and you're not going to
Yes.
be happy doing it.
Yes.
So love that authenticity to be yourself. So, as you were being yourself, did you have to have any internal mindset shifts that were essential for you to grow into the leader you are today? So, you wish somebody told you to be yourself and to be authentic. So, along the way, did you have to have any essential mindset shifts?
Um, yes, absolutely. Um, so one of those that I'm thinking about is that this idea that other people can make me look bad. So
Mhm.
that was something that I heard quite a lot. Other people, mistakes of the team can make me look bad, and that was something that didn't resonate
Mhm.
for me. So when I took and let me just back up a little bit, because it was another leader that I was working with that would say those types of things.
Mhm.
However the team presented, that made this person look bad. And so I spent a lot of time when I stepped into this interim role with NISAD and was really taking on that leadership role. I spent a lot of time reflecting on that comment and shifting the mindset of others can make me look bad to how do I help others to be successful?
Mhm.
My focus can be on them and less on me, and I get to just be me.
Mhm.
And I get to be comfortable with who I am. And I get to also help others be comfortable in their own shoes, so to speak, referring back to your
Right.
analogy.
That's right. No, and I love, and it comes back to being authentic, right? I mean, if you're your authentic self and you are that selfless leader and you're supporting others, then you don't have to worry about a reflection of somebody else on you. I mean, if you're all supporting one another. So I
Yes.
think that just shows the different types of leadership. Um, because I don't know about you, but I have had some incredible leaders and other individuals that, I say it's a leadership crush. I just love that individual as a leader and all they stand for.
Uh-huh.
And then I have others that are the sole reason why I do things the way I do because I don't want to do it like that. I don't want to come
Yes.
across as that individual. And so, everything is an experience. And I always say that whether it's good or bad or indifferent, there is a lesson learned. You learn what to do, you learn what not to do, you
Yes.
learn how to pivot and shift and do all these other things. And so that sounds exactly like what you were doing with that
Yes.
mindset.
Yes. And I think also embracing the idea that making mistakes is not necessarily a bad thing. Um,
No, it's
and
not.
no, and in fact, it's such an important part of our journey and learning. And so if we can't make space for making mistakes, then there's not space for learning and for growth.
Yes, that is so true. Um, I've had individuals that say, well, I can't get it wrong. I have to do it perfect. I have to do it perfect. Well, if you're always trying to be perfect and there's never any opportunity to have failure, for lack of a better word, people are so scared of that word, then how are you going to remold? How are you going to grow and develop? And so, mistakes are part of the learning process, although people don't want to admit it. Um, but it's also allowing people to make mistakes, not always fixing it right away. In the South, we say fixing, but
Yeah.
not always fixing it along the way. So I love that you said, mistakes are not a bad thing. We have to grow and learn. And that's also getting out of your comfort zone. If you don't have that opportunity to grow and learn, you're not going to try new things.
Yes.
Shame on us for doing that.
Yes.
And I think that, that's, in my opinion, that's some of the challenges with some of our younger students is everything is all about the success and the rings and the trophies and that everybody gets a participation award, but they never learn how to deal with failure or they never learn how to deal with not being successful. And that is such an important skill to develop as you get older, just in adulting in life, whether it is leadership or not.
Hmm.
And so I think that is a big key that we are missing.
I would
And
agree. And when I was in the classroom, it was something that I really spent a lot of time thinking about for my students. Because, as children and as we're growing and becoming adults, we don't expect that children are going to be perfect. We expect that
that's
they're going
right.
to make mistakes. We expect that they're going to fall down a few times before they learn to walk well and that sort of thing. And yet we get to the classroom and there's this built-in punishment of sorts for students when they make mistakes because of the
Mhm.
way we grade or the way that we provide feedback for students in their learning process. And so I spent a lot of time thinking about how can I build in this process of learning through mistakes in a way that's not punishing, but rather encouraging and lets them
Right.
know that, you know, you have every opportunity to succeed here.
Well, and that's one of the things that, I love learning. I love education, but I've also, I have a son that struggles a little bit with some of his learning just because his strengths are different than what everybody else thinks is a strength.
Hmm.
So, he has a vision impairment, but he is the best listener in the world. And so he'll get in trouble for not paying attention to the teacher, not looking at the teacher, but he's hearing every single thing that's going on. And so, whenever I speak with him about his grades, I'm always asking, the positive side of it because I want to know, did you enjoy class? What are you learning now? And it might just be that the grade he received is because he couldn't see something the way that everybody else saw it on a
Hmm.
piece of paper, but he understood the concept. So we've had to navigate that throughout his educational journey. But in education too, it has shifted so much that it's about what you don't know or the negative side of education is where we're focusing. We're focusing on the stuff that maybe you don't know or you don't like. I would
Hmm.
love it if we would focus more on what are their strengths and how can we encourage that development along the way. Because if you only focus on what the kids don't like, they're going to hate school.
Yes.
They're going to hate it. So I've always been really cautious whenever I was in the classroom, whenever I was an administrator, if there was a gap somewhere to really have that conversation about, okay, if it's somebody in a space where there's somebody else that has that strength, how can we bring them in so they can support what's going on? Or how can we navigate your strength so that it kind of fits in this, other area and helps you along your journey? So I've always been more of a strength finder, if you will. I know that that's an actually coin term somewhere, so I'm not stealing that one at all. But I like that to look at people's strengths and see what they have to offer rather than focusing always on the weaknesses or the gaps.
Yes, that's so important.
Yes. So, as you've kind of gone through, do you have any key habits or rituals that help you stay grounded and focused as a leader? Maybe one or two key habits or something that has helped you reconnect when things get challenging. So, you've had a lot of experiences and some things you've had to step into challenging positions at all levels of your life. So, any key habits or rituals that you've really stuck to or anything that helped you get reconnected when it got hard?
Yeah. It's funny because it may be a little bit different than what you might be expecting, but one of the habits that I just love, and I feel like it really sets my day off so wonderfully, is having coffee on the couch my with my husband.
Mhm.
And it gives us time to connect with each other. It gives us time to talk about what's coming up for us each day, in terms of our schedule, but also thoughts that we might be having and discussing any, if there are areas of where maybe I'm feeling stressed or he feels stressed, and we get each other's perspectives, outside perspectives on what's going on. But it's also my time where I sit down and I read a book that is for my personal development. And so I the second part of that is the personal development, right? Of understanding that I'm never going to know all the things, I'm never going to master everything, but I can keep trying, I can keep learning. I can keep finding the things that resonate for me and help me clarify my values. And so then that's the other thing is really making sure that I take the time to tune into my own personal values and making sure that the actions that I take are in alignment with my personal values. And
Mhm.
so that's whatever it is I'm doing for the day, or it's whatever challenge that I'm facing, that I'm tuning into those personal values first.
That is so powerful. And I actually did expect something like that. Some people are like, I go for a jog or I do my yoga or I meditate or whatnot. But um, I've always thought that we were somewhat alike, but my husband and I have always worked in the same place. So we see each other in the morning, we saw each other during the day, we saw each other in the evening. I mean, that like we just live together, our whole lives are together. And we're better when we're like that. When we're apart is when we get cranky and yucky. So I love that you have that because relationships, your own personal relationships, are kind of the foundation of who you are. And if that is on track, and if that is, if you have a way that you all connect and you support one another and you empower each other, I love that so, so, so much. And by talking about your personal development, your values, your actions, you're a lifelong learner like I am. I've always said if I could get paid to go to school forever, I would have. But unfortunately, it doesn't pay you back anymore. But now I get to choose where I go and what I learn along the way. But it's the fact that you're willing to keep learning that's so essential. And when you talk about your personal development or your values and actions, that goes right back up to living authentically and
Yes,
leading authentically. And when you are truly confident in who you are, what your values are, ethics, morals, all of those things, it seems that your decisions are so much easier because they're in line with who you are.
yes.
And then people begin to trust you more because they know who you are and the decisions you're going to make. So, I mean, it's such a powerful statement. So, thank you for sharing that, coffee on the couch to connect. I love that. The three C's in the morning, coffee, couch, connect. And so, what strategies have helped you navigate transitions or major changes in your career? And I know that you've had some different shifts. Have you had any specific strategies, or is it take a breath, take one day at a time,
Well,
really
definitely
reflect
there's
and
that.
meditate? Yes, yes, there's always that.
It's funny because when after I went to the department chair to offer to lead the conference and lead NISOD, and then when they said yes, we want you to do that, and I walked away and I was like, what did I just volunteer for?
That's massive. Yeah, I mean, that's a 30-year history right there that you were just taking on.
Yes,
At
yeah.
least, at least longer than that.
Yeah. Um, Strategies. Really, I think the thing it go this is not it's not new, it's not different than what I've probably already shared with you. But and it reflects now in the new journey that I'm on now, moving into coaching and really tapping into what is that inner self. And so for a long, long time, I felt like I was kind of ruled by my socialized self, where there were messages from society, from outside people who, had the best of intentions for me, organizations I was a part of, all that, that had these messages for who I should be, what I should look like, what I should say, what I should not say, what I should believe or not believe. And so I was really governed by that socialized self for a long time. And when I tapped into and rediscovered myself that I was born as, my
Mm-hmm.
inner self, my core self. And this is now what I refer to as my wolf self. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
that it really changed the strategy for me in how I approach transitions. That now I look to that inner self, that wolf self, and I look for what is it that helps me feel free. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't make the fear go away, but is this the direction of freedom for me? Versus, do I feel constrained here? And so if
Mm.
I feel constrained here, then that's not for me.
That was almost an epiphany with what you just said. If you feel constrained, then it's not for you. I have been in positions where it was going wonderfully for a while, and then there was kind of a culture shift, if you will.
Hmm.
And it got to be where, I had such a great relationship with those that I served, with those that I worked with, and the students. My gosh, I love the students. That's a whole other animal. But, there were some other leaders, and I'm not going to say who or what positions, but there were some other leaders that they were all about how it makes them look and putting their name on whatever it was. And it
Hmm.
was their idea, but they were so far removed from what was actually happening at the institution that their decisions were way off what was needed at
Hmm.
that time. And I just felt torn. I actually felt pulled. And so when I felt like that I was being, I guess I couldn't be myself anymore. I had to do it just as you said. I had to talk and walk and make decisions based on what they wanted, not what was best for the institution. That was my time to say, thank you very much. It's time to go a different direction on a new path.
Yes.
And so, and I've still been finding there's been a couple other opportunities I've had, but they just didn't, it wasn't a good fit. And you know it when you walk in there if it's a good fit or not. Every single, I mean, kind of, it's like palpable. You can taste it and feel it in your body.
Hmm.
With my background in sports medicine, I could really feel it. I mean, I knew the stress responses that were going on.
Yes.
But one of the things you talk about is that core self, that wolf self, and having that courage because the fear doesn't go away. And what fear truly is being scared of something in the future that you haven't even experienced.
Yes.
And if you can realize what, one step at a time and really unpack that, it's usually not something to be afraid of in the first place.
Yes. Yes. And it's a story that we're spinning in our own heads.
Yes, absolutely. Like, what are you afraid of? I'm afraid of what they're going to say. Well, they haven't said it yet. So what are you afraid of?
And
What
what
are you
if
afraid
they
of?
do?
That's right. What's the worst thing that can happen? It's
Yes.
a learning opportunity. So I do want to go back to what you will be doing shortly. So I don't want to get off of that too far. But one question I want to ask you because it might feed into what you're going to be doing is, talking about reflecting, realigning, refueling. And so, leadership, we all have ebbs and flows. In an educational institution, you have the ebbs and flows of the semester, where you just were with NISOD, you have the ebbs and flows of the conferences and all the different things that were being offered. And so now, as you are stepping out of one journey and or a pathway and stepping into a new pathway, because reflecting, a lot of people assume that reflecting is only thinking about something that was done wrong.
Hmm.
But, reflecting is so powerful even when things are going right. So share with me how you have methods or how important they are looking at reflecting, realigning, and refueling. Because I feel
Yeah.
like that's kind of leading into where you're going.
Yeah. Um, so I have a deep love of nature. I, from my earliest childhood memories, I loved being outside, um, digging holes in the dirt to create forts that the spiders lived in more than I did, um, catching caterpillars and hatching butterflies, climbing trees,
Mhm.
um, riding bikes. And so I find that now that's still a source of great like recharge for me, even if it's going for a walk. But more than that, I find that I need time to be in nature and unplug. The-
Mhm.
No cell phone, no internet, no checking my email, but to just go outside and be with nature and to have my own thoughts with me, and reflect, but mostly to just reflect on what an amazing world that we live in and what an amazing life I have.
Mhm.
And so that's one of the things that I do that is very helpful to me. One of the places I've discovered that holds a really special place in my heart for me is the redwood forest.
Mhm.
And there's something about these trees that are thousands of years old that have their own wisdom and consciousness in their own way.
Mhm.
And this longing to be able to tap into it just a little bit and to understand what their knowing is, what they know.
Well, and I again, that is such powerful reflection because we do get so caught up in the technology and the machines and the computers and all these other things. You know, when I was younger, I used to think, oh, great, a computer is going to help make things more efficient. I'll have more time. Well, now they've made it so that you are so efficient to give you more things to do in less time. So,
Yes.
yeah, you really never unplug ever, ever, ever. And there's a great quote, and I cannot pull it out right now from my brain. I have it in one of my presentations talking about, if you just unplug something for a while, it restarts and starts fresh. Same thing for humans. It's if you unplug for a while, you are going to refresh and reset.
Yes.
So just being out in nature, I had another friend of mine that she said when she got stressed, she would just take her shoes off and walk in the grass, just having that reconnection with the earth just made such a difference. And so, I feel like you're kind of going into that journey as well as it's that reconnection. We've had all of this noise going on, but how can we really reconnect? And it sounds like you're going to your foundational loves, really
Yes.
is, nature and connecting with those that are around you.
Yes. And it's
So
interesting too, because part of what I've been, I guess, learning, which I think I felt like I knew on a subconscious level, but this understanding of humans were born to live in nature and in conjunction with nature. That's our earliest roots, is living outside.
off nature.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. And we've moved far away from it, but evolutionarily, biologically,
Yeah.
we still have those,
Mhm.
um, that physiology that aligns with nature and being with
Right.
nature.
Well, and not to get off on a tangent, but you just think about just one aspect as food.
Yes.
Food has become so processed that, the goal is to go back towards the more natural foods. And it's just like everything else, get away from the computers or, take a walk instead of drive or take the stairs instead of the escalator. It's, whatever you can to get back to some of the basics when life was a bit
Yes.
simpler, when
Yes.
life was simpler.
Yes.
So, as you've gone through all these journeys, have you ever had to navigate imposter syndrome or any moments of self doubt along the way? I mean, you started your leadership journey very, very young, as you said in the church. So, did you ever experience imposter syndrome or any self doubt along the way? And if so, how did you overcome that?
So yes,
Mhm. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Um,
I think we all have.
yes, absolutely. So I think Probably where I experienced it the first time most acutely was the first time I stepped into a classroom as a professor.
Hmm.
I was
Yes.
like, now I'm supposed to be the expert of this and how to teach
Yeah.
it.
Yes.
Um, so in terms of navigating it, I think it goes back to partly, reflecting, is this something that I want to do? Do I believe in doing it? Is it something that
Mhm.
is for me? And the answer at the time was, yes, I really want to do this. And also, what I really want is for the students to be successful, to have a positive experience, and to also maybe in some way appreciate the subject material that we cover in class.
Mhm.
And at the time, I was teaching microbiology. That was the first class I ever te taught at the community college. And so, um, and so those were the motivations. Looking to what's the motivation for why I'm here. It helped
Mhm.
me to continue to keep going and to overcome the imposter syndrome, and also, leaning on peers who were experienced and asking for their to share their expertise as well.
Love that. In the classroom, the classroom has shifted so much because it used to be that the teacher was the know-all, like they had all the information, they were the vault.
Yes.
And now with Google and AI and all these other things, the classroom has really changed. It's no longer that the teacher is the know-all. Some of the students know way more than I do, but it's navigating that journey and,
Yes.
supporting the learning process. So it's
Yes.
also being willing to shift along the way
Yes.
as things change too. So, do you have any advice that you would give to leaders navigating burnout or overwhelm themselves? You said you would work with mentors and, you would really kind of remember why you were there. Would that be the advice that you would share, or would there be anything that you would add to it to navigate burnout or overwhelm for other individuals?
Um, what I would say is going back to that feeling of freedom versus constraint, where's your
Hmm.
energy at? And do those things. And look at what the things that you're doing that maybe aren't necessary and that drain your energy, and start eliminating those things, because not everything has to be done.
And that is a powerful statement right there. That is one that I would get caught in. I have to get this done for tomorrow. No, you don't. You really don't. My husband would say, no, you don't. That's not until next week. So come
Yeah.
home.
Yeah.
But I think that especially those that are new to the leadership journey, self-care has not always been one of those things that was expected of leaders. It was more so on the opposite side, that being drained and exhausted was the norm for leaders. And
Yes.
so, and again, whenever I use the term leader, I use that loosely because I'm not saying you have to have a position or a title. It's just if you're one that influences others positively is my goal. So I think that, taking ownership of your own body, because if you don't take care of your body, where are you going to live is, something that Jane Pence said years and years ago. But, it's really realizing that you've got to take care of yourself and you have to have your energy. You charge your phone whenever it's low, you've got to charge yourself whenever you're low. And I think
Yes.
that's part of where you're going with your new journey with nature, and I just love anything with wolves. I just love that.
Yeah, and Stephanie, one of the things that comes to mind for me too is really setting boundaries for yourself, what you're
Mm-hmm.
willing to do and what you're not willing to do, what time is for you and what time is for work. And so, one of the strategies that I've employed too is when am I looking at email and when am I just turning it off? When am I, setting those clear boundaries? But not only that, not just for me, but scheduling email so it goes out on a work day, maybe in the morning, and it's not hitting someone in the middle of the weekend,
Yeah.
when they hopefully are taking time for themselves and for self-care.
Well, and I love that all the emails are now allowing you to schedule because I was horrible about that. I love working. I mean, that's kind of like I love doing it. And so I would always do all these things on the weekends and I'd get back and people were like, "Why are you sending us these things?" Of course, I got better over the years. And I said, "Well, that's just for me when I would send it out." They're like, "Well, we were expecting thinking that you wanted us to or expecting us to respond. I'm like, no, 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 wait till the next week. And so now I purposely do that. I only send emails for the most part during the week, except when I send them to you. Of course, I sent you three in a row, which was an accident. I was working on something there, trying to get it to work, and I didn't make it work until later. But you're right, setting those boundaries. And I have found myself that if I have my emails open, and I say emails because I've got more than one, and I hear that ding, and I'm like, oh, what is it? What is it? It's that, that instant gratification piece. And
Uh-huh.
so I will check it in the morning and then I'll close it so that I can't get the ding. And then I'll open it back up much later. And I have found myself so much more productive with
Mm,
time blocking. Okay, now's my emails. I'm taking care of all the big things. I write down my list for the day. Of course, I already have a longer list from the previous day. And then I close it out, I do my things, and then I pick it back up a little bit later. So I think that that's one of the pieces that I have found has been helpful with
yeah.
boundaries because I wasn't always good at it. Again, my background in sports medicine, I was one of the worst. I ran the wellness program on campus and I never took advantage of it myself. So I was taking care of everybody else. So, lessons to those out there, take care of yourself.
Yes. Don't be afraid to advocate for yourself.
That's right. That's right. And I know that we're getting close to time, which I can't believe this has gone so quickly. But I do have two specific questions for you, and then I might have a couple more if we have some extra time. But so, what is next for you in your leadership journey? You kind of mentioned a little bit about it, but how can our listeners follow and support you in this next piece?
Yeah, thank you. I'm really thrilled because I really felt like it was time for me to have my own vision that I get to lead and I get to develop. And so I am trained as a life coach now and completed my, as you mentioned, completed my dissertation in adult education. And and my undergrad degree and master's was in biology, and so I've come to a place where I have this beautiful merging of all of these different areas of my learning. And so I'm launching a coaching business, but in conjunction with that, it using the metaphor of finding, rediscovering, and freeing your inner wolf, going back to that core self and who you were born to be. And so part of the business is developing a retreat that it will take place in Yellowstone Park
Mhm.
with a wildlife biologist and going to learn about wolves and the reintroduction of wolves into Yellowstone Park, the healing that happened, and what wolf behavior is like, what the process is to track animals, and using all of that to better understand ourselves and our own journey to rediscover our own inner wolf and to listen to it and track it in our own lives.
I absolutely love all of that. So it's called the Wild Inner Self Exploration Retreat, Wolf
Yes.
Tracking,
Yes.
and it's scheduled for April of 2027. Is that correct?
Yes. April
Um,
18th through the 23rd. Yes. And those are going to, I'm hoping to expand that and to offer
yes.
other types of retreats in nature and helping folks to reconnect with nature. But yes, we're starting with that one.
Perfect. There are a limited number of spots available. And so she has a website, which is kristolman.com, KRISTOLMAN.com. She is also on LinkedIn for any information about that or to reach out even for coaching or anything else that you would like related to finding, rediscovering, and freeing your inner wolf. So any final words of wisdom or encouragement that you'd like to share with aspiring women leaders who are tuning in?
Don't be afraid to try.
Yeah.
I think that that's the thing that comes to mind for me. Live authentically, be yourself, and don't be afraid to try. Um, and do the hard thing, whatever that is. If it feels like the path
Yes.
towards freedom, even though it's scary, go do it. Go try it.
Well, and I think I wish I would have known that earlier. There are so many things that I wanted to do and wanted to try, but you always had to do what everybody else did. You always had to have the job and the paycheck and all that. And so it's a bit scary doing your own thing, but
Yes.
if it's almost freeing, as you mentioned, it's kind of a merge of everything else, everything that you've learned and developed I believe that things happen for a reason. And so, all of my experiences are now supporting my journey right now, just like all of your experiences are
Yes.
supporting your journey as well. And I wish you the best. I am so excited for where you're going. I hope that I can join one of your treats, one of your, it is a treat, but one of your retreats in the near future. But I know it's going to, just like you were planning those camps for the group of young ladies in your church years ago, you are planning a retreat for individuals as we move forward. So thank you, Kris, for being on. This was wonderful.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you so much for the
Okay.
conversation and the opportunity.
Absolutely. So, thank you for joining us for another episode of Exponentially Elevate Your Leadership Impact. I hope today's conversation left you feeling inspired, empowered, and ready to take the next step on your leadership journey. A huge thank you to our incredible guest, Dr. Kris Tolman, for sharing her wisdom, experience, and authenticity. If you loved what you heard, be sure to connect, follow, and continue the conversation. We're building a leadership movement, and your voice matters. If today's episode resonated with you, I would invite you to grab a copy of my book, Exponentially Elevate Your Leadership Impact, a year-long journey to reflect, strengthen, and elevate your leadership, which is a weekly guide to confident, authentic, and purpose-driven leadership. It's available on Amazon or through my website. And if you're ready to go even deeper, whether it's booking me to speak at your next event or diving into a leadership program or simply connecting, head to www.drstephanieduguid.com. I would love to hear from you. And let me leave you with this powerful reminder and my mantra, which is serve with goodness, lead with greatness, educate with impact. Until next time, keep leading with heart, stay courageous, and always do good.
All right. Terrific job. Good show. We're clear.
Thank you so much, Matt. Have a good one.
You're welcome. Thanks. Have a good one. Thanks. Bye bye.
Bye. All right. We are clear.
Nice.
I'm going to stop this recording.